Hi, this is Shauna, the CEO and founder of Fuel Talent. One of the things I have loved most in my 25-year recruiting career has always been the stories that people tell. Stories of leadership, career choices, company ideas, and team building. My inspiration for starting the What Fuels You podcast came from being curious about people's lives and wanting to help share their stories. What path brought them to this place? What decisions did they make that led to failures and successes? Who influenced those decisions, and what lessons were learned along the way? I hope you enjoy the What Fuels You podcast. Today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast is John Pham. John is an entrepreneur, team builder, former aerospace engineer, and practicing orthodontist. As CEO and co-founder of InBrace, John and his team are building an entire new category of teeth straightening, giving the 500 million people who've opted out of orthodontics a solution that has clinical precision and doesn't require work of lifestyle adjustments while in treatment. It delivers a completely hidden solution with Smartwire being placed behind your teeth to gently perfect your smile in half the time with half the pain and half the work. Prior to InBrace, John spent years as a Boeing engineer and startup entrepreneur, then went on to USC and graduated with a master's degree in Craniofacial Biology and completed a residency at USC. He also received his bachelor's degree in Engineering and Doctorate degree in dental surgery from UCLA. John now serves as a Managing Orthodontist for Bristol Dental and Orthodontics, as well as Co-Principal Investigator at USC's Advanced Orthodontics and Viterbi Engineering Group. He has been recognized in 2018, 2019, and 2020 when InBrace was one of the Orange County's top workplaces, and in 2019 and 20 when he was named Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year finalist. He currently resides in Orange County with his wife and 2 children. Welcome, John.
Hi, Shauna. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, we're going to start with the interview. I'm so excited, like beyond, with a rapid fire. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
Okay, given your business, I'm super curious. This is on the spot, but who's the best celebrity smile out there?
Oh, there's so many HIPAA things I can't.
Besides you, you've got a good smile. Look at those teeth.
Thank you. Because of the HIPAA things, unless people have given me permission or unless people have posted it on, social media, I can't really mention. But I'll say we do have wives of basketball players. We have Hollywood stars. We have politicians. This is really, treatment for folks who want to get teeth straightening but don't want people to know they're getting teeth straightening.
Yeah.
So
tell me about you. Tell me 3 words that would describe your leadership style.
I'm a big basketball guy. So if I were to pick, I would say I have the ruthlessness of Michael Jordan with the teamwork of Magic Johnson. I'm relentless, I'm empowering, and I'm scrappy.
Love it.
And I
love this scrappy. Scrappy is a perfect basketball word.
that probably comes from, growing up, first generation immigrant, right?
Yeah.
Parents were refugees, come and run a rickety boat, right?
Yeah, I can't wait to get into that story. Okay, so if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
These are good. Entrepreneurs either live in the present, in the future, or in the past, and I think you call it superpower or not, just knowing how to be present and enjoying what you have today. Because it is about
oh my gosh, that might be, I've asked that question several times. That might be my best answer I've gotten. The idea of being present is so aspirational for many of us, right?
Yeah, I think, really, like I thought about this one, too, like what's superpower? Because, you get asked this and you ask this a lot too. And yeah, flying and healing the world and, have my superpower being having as many superpowers as I want. But
that's so smart. Like the genie in the bottle, more.
Yeah. But I think really, like, now that I'm getting to this point in my life, it really is. We always talk about enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
It's learning how to be present.
Yeah. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I think I lean more on being an extrovert.
I would guess that.
But I'm learning how to appreciate the introverted side of things too.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the pandemic probably had an impact on that.
The pandemic definitely did. But this also goes to the part of being present, and we can talk about this later if you want. But I'm learning the art of meditation, and
Oh, yeah. Wow.
what it brings.
I definitely want to learn from you. Okay. So if you had an extra hour in the day, how would you spend it? Maybe meditating.
If I, well, again, we can talk more. I mean, the title of this is what fuels you, right? And a lot of folks listening here, we're probably all workaholics, but that hour is being present, whatever it is that I'm doing, with my family, in my work, or by myself. Yeah. That really is what I would do.
Well, if you could have dinner with anyone in the world, I guess maybe living or someone who's passed away, who would you choose?
I've always really wanted to meet Thomas Jefferson.
It's a good one.
Yeah, he was a Renaissance man. He was an engineer too, and I'm an engineer by training. So he had the vision to start West Point, and push science and math and all those things. And yeah, I thought he did a lot of amazing things.
Okay, so this is my final rapid fire, and then I'm super excited to get into your life. Okay, so if there was a book written about your life, what would it be called?
You Do You.
Nice. I like that title.
I think
awesome.
I think it's just You Do You. I think a lot of us go through school, watch commercials, read books that all try to tell us who we should be and how we should act. And I think really in this world, it's about doing you and finding out what fuels you, what defines you. And in doing so, we can talk about this too, is, you would create your own category and not fit inside someone else's category or box, right?
Yeah, I love it. I would read that book. I'm reading that book for sure.
And Shauna, I had to become an engineer and then a dentist and then an orthodontist just so I could figure out that I'm an entrepreneur at heart.
I love it. Well, they're all blending together to make the perfect product that we're going to talk about. It makes sense. Okay, yeah. So tell us, you grew up in Los Angeles, son of immigrant farmers. Tell our listeners all about your origin story. It's so inspiring.
I mean, it is the immigrant story that I believe everybody here is an immigrant, especially, in the US. And my parents came from, war-stricken Vietnam, fleeing communism and oppression on rickety boats. And when they got here, all they had were these, seeds in their pockets, right? And we settled on the east side of LA, where we didn't know any better. Wherever there was free soil, we just plant. I call it ghetto farming, And when you're driving through LA, you always see, these kids on the side of the freeway selling oranges. I mean, that was me growing up, except that instead of oranges, I sold vegetables. I sold Asian herbs.
Wow.
And, you learn a lot of things, going through that. You learn about what a commodity is. You learn about how to sell something different.
Yeah, I was about to say you had to sell. Did you ever, this is like completely off topic or maybe not, but I'm super curious when you said herbs, did your mom use herbs from a healing perspective also?
Yeah. Eastern medicine, I think I'm saying here as a clinically, medically trained, person here in the States. But Eastern medicine dates back thousands and thousands of years.
I know.
So yeah, I mean, you learn the benefit of holistic medicine, right? But we planted like bok choy and Asian basil and mints and all these things, and that's what we sold. I mean, I vividly remember going to the 99 Ranch Market, which is a big Asian market here in Southern California, and we'd show up at 8:00 and sell our boxes full of vegetables, and then at 8 p.m. at night we'd come back to the same store and go around the back and jump in the dumpster to dig out these boxes and save 10 cents.
I read about that and I loved that story. And I was thinking that actually probably has influenced somewhat, maybe consciously or subconsciously, like how you lead a company, how you manage, how you manage the P&L, just all of it. Like where can we cut costs?
There's a lot we can go with all these things, but yeah, I learned a lot. I learned there are times to work on the business and not in the business. I mean, there we were working in the business, trying to save
For
10
sure.
cents. But they were in wartime at the time, like we, my parents were trying to do whatever we can just to meet the bills. So we had to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so were your parents clear on, or was it just through modeling behavior on your kind of core values that were important to them?
There were certain things that were, always reinforced, right? In our family. I mean, my parents are Catholic, so we always talked about giving back and making sure that we saw value in everyone. And as I fast forward in this story, we eventually saved up enough money to buy our own piece of land.
Wow.
And our home became sort of a halfway home for other refugees coming from other war-stricken countries. So I grew up with Cambodians, Laotians, Latinos, all types of folks, right? Working side by side with them, in the farm. And you learn that no matter who you are, you have a way to contribute, right? I learned that no matter if it's raining or sunshine or hail or whatever it is, you still farm, you still do what you can. I think that's
the work ethic part. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the entrepreneurial spirit. Right.
Yeah.
And the last thing is that I also learned that I hated farming. So, and we can talk about this now or later, but the first thing I did when I got to college was I actually dropped out. Yeah.
I read about that. And you told your mom, you were like, don't worry if it doesn't work out, like with the startup, that you're going to go back.
Yeah. So
pursue medicine. I love it.
So if you want to talk about that,
yeah. Well, I do want to ask you a couple more things because I'm always super curious about parents and teachers and kind of how they influenced you. And I'm just curious, was there a person or a moment where you had a realization that you would go on to do bigger things? Like, did somebody plant that in your mind, or was that just like, that's Shauna, that's just me, no. That's who I am?
Yeah. My grandma, she's 94 years old now. She survived through World War II, the Korean War, refugee, all these things. She defied the odds, the whole way through. So she did instill in me sort of this notion of, don't let people tell you how things should be. You define how things should be, right?
I love that.
She's such a winner. I mean, she's so stubborn. She still walks herself to church every day, I mean, she had a broken foot once, and the doctor showed her this X-ray. She said, "I don't know what the hell this is. I survived the war. I'll walk myself to church if I wanted to."
I love her.
She walked to church on a broken toe.
I love that old school. So, were you a good student? I'm guessing. I mean, gosh.
It was one of those things where I think when I cared enough, I was, but I didn't grow up wanting to be a doctor. I didn't, know if I was ever, quite frankly, smart enough. So my grades were just kind of average going through school,
But you were the first in your family to go to college, right?
I was the first in my family to go to college. Yeah.
Wow. And where are you in the sibling thing? You have one sibling?
I'm the oldest
of two.
I'm the oldest of three, so I got two younger siblings.
Yeah, and did they go on also kind of follow in your footsteps?
So it's kind of funny, right? My parents,
I always love that. You're like, set the bar high.
Yeah.
For the family.
So yeah, my parents always wanted us to be in healthcare, so all of us fled healthcare, but we all ended up somehow becoming in healthcare. So my sister became a psychology major, but eventually became a nurse. And my brother did something else, and he eventually became a physician.
Yeah, found his way back. So tell me about dropping out of, you went to UCLA for undergrad?
Yes, I did.
And that's an incredibly difficult school to get into. So you must have done something right with your grades. I think you're being humbled.
No, actually I was denied. I had to appeal.
Well, still, I'm sorry. That's an engineering school. Like, that's incredible. So what made you drop out?
It is one of those things where I didn't want to take no for an answer. So, so I was supposed to go to Berkeley, actually.
Oh, another ridiculously impossible school to get into.
Yeah. I was supposed to go to Berkeley. And then when UCLA said no, I said, no, you're not going to say no to me. So I actually applied. I became a late admit, whatever they call it. And yeah,
And so how come you dropped out of school? What were you pursuing at the time?
So during that time, it was the tech boom,
Mm-hmm.
and I after all those years of farming, I just wanted to make some money, and so I dropped out. I joined a internet startup with a few other friends, and
I'm sure your family loved that.
oh yeah, well, my mom almost killed me for it, but I kind of told her, I said, hey, if you let me drop out, I'll be the Asian son you always wanted.
Yeah.
She said, okay, fine, if you promised me that. So she kind of lets me drop out, and we joined this tech startup doing. We had this notion that this is in the 90s, right?
Yeah, no, I get it. I was there, right there with you.
Yeah, we had this notion that if you created an online environment that allowed vendors to go on there and advertise their product, that maybe consumers would click on a button, buy it online, and it would show up at their house.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I know. Can you imagine that? So people call it online shopping now. There's a company that the guy named Jeff Bezos started that kind of, I think, did okay with that, but
kind of a disruptor. Yeah. Yeah.
But Shauna, I will tell you, at a young age though, we did okay. I mean, we were 19, 20-year-olds driving Ferraris and Lamborghinis. And the best thing that happened to me during that time was the tech crash.
Yeah.
Because you also learn that these things that you own don't own you. And the things that you thought defined success really don't define success.
What was the kind of, did the company fail or what happened?
I mean, it was the prototypical tech bubble.
Yeah.
Right. And
I had so many companies. I was recruiting in those days, and I had so many companies that were like the hot company, and then like 6 months later, they're out of business. I mean, tons of them. So yeah, I mean those statistics are real, about like 1% or something.
Well, I think that goes back to what farming kind of taught me, though, right? It's like there's going to be times of feast and famine. There's going to be times of drought and rain, and you got to weather through it. And sometimes you change the crops. So I was going down that tech route, but it was time to change the crops. So I mean, who you are doesn't change. You're supposed to get better from it. So I just went back to school, finished my degree, and took what I learned from there and moved on.
Okay, so you go back to UCLA and then ultimately pursue orthodontics. Like, how did you end up? Yeah, tell me about that.
So actually, I end up pursuing finishing my degree in engineering.
Yeah,
and I ended up working at the Boeing company.
Right. Oh yeah, I have that. I have missed that whole part of your life. That's a huge part of your life. So, engineering.
So I mean, all this. I kind of want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about these twists and turns, right? Because I mean, Steve Jobs says it best. Like, these things only make sense when you connect the dots going backwards. They don't make sense connecting the dots going forward. And you got to get this trust that things will pan out. You have to, right? I think a lot of younger generation right now, you were kind of programmed to like, you got to decide on this major, and then when you graduate, you can do this thing, and then it's going to ruin your life forever. You pick the wrong thing, and it's totally untrue. Totally untrue. Totally. These are just boxes people put you in, saying you got to do this thing, and just follow your dream, follow your passion. And at the time, I wanted to do a tech startup, right? Because I just wanted to see what the power of venture capital and ideas, like, where it can take you, how quickly. And I saw it, it was crazy. There's one thing, I would say that I learned during that tech boom thing, though, is what success, power, and money can do to people. And I think that was when I learned one of my first life lessons is people will kill for money, but people would die for recognition. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that makes sense to you, what I'm saying here. I mean, people will die for recognition, and ego is the enemy. And if you don't control yourself, and you don't really find out what success really is for you, you can get caught up in this recognition, fame, power.
Yeah, all the ego
cycle.
stuff.
Yeah. especially in these days of social media. That's another conversation. I do think social media is the 21st century cigarette. You know?
Yes, I totally agree.
I
I
mean,
totally agree.
yeah. But anyway, moving forward here, doing my first startup, you learn what, again, venture capital ideas can do. And Shauna, like you work a lot with folks here, that are very successful. And I think going back to being present, I mean, entrepreneurs, you always want to strive for the next thing, and we do live in the present or the past, and we don't spend that much time living in the present.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson I'm trying to practice right now.
Well, I think it's incredible that, it's just even being in that growth mindset to know that you have areas and blind spots is everything. And I have to say, I do meet a lot of incredible people. There are people who you can tell are leading with their ego and are focused on recognition and money and power. But generally speaking, I feel like if you can just get down to the core and you're just really authentic off the bat, like that's just who you are. You kind of lead with your heart. At least that's my impression of you. Not everybody's like that. But I think if you can peel back the layers and really most people just want the same thing. They want connection. They want purpose,
See, I mean, that's the fine balance, right? Is the truth is we have everything that we'd ever want. And it's free.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Tell me what's on your wall behind you.
Yes, I can lift my camera here. So it's just 5 things to remind myself that costs 0 money or talent to be successful. 1 is be on time. 2 is have an open mind. 3 is have a good attitude. 4 is be prepared. And 5 is learn from others.
Oh my gosh. I love it. You have to take a photo of that and send it to me.
Okay. I'd be happy to.
So tell me about your work at Boeing. Like that's a whole part of your life Boeing, obviously I'm in Seattle.
Yeah. I've made many trips to Seattle because of Boeing. But so again, in tech startups, you learn a lot about what, the power of sort of, ideas and capital can do, right? And you move things pretty quickly. At Boeing, it's just people and hope, and the belief that man can do something amazing, I mean, we put people on the moon, we're putting satellites out there. We're as John F. Kennedy said, we're designing stuff that doesn't exist, made out of materials we haven't invented yet, right?
Yeah.
And so, it was amazing there. I worked on some top secret projects. I can maybe say it now because it's been long enough, but I worked on Air Force One.
Oh, wow.
Components of, Air Force One. And interestingly, fast forward 10 years later, my boss's boss at Boeing, which is the CTO, the head of all engineers at Boeing, ended up being an InBrace patient and is now now on our advisory board here at InBrace.
How cool is that?
And I was totally geeking out. Okay, totally.
I'm sure.
Out, but I kind of talked to him. I said, hey, his name is John as well as John J. Tracy. I said, hey, John, if you can build rockets, man, we can find a way to straighten teeth better, right?
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So how long were you at Boeing?
So I was at Boeing for 3-ish years. And on my second year there, Mama taps me on the shoulder one day and she says, "Hey, you promised me." And I said, "What was that?" She said, you promised me if I let you drop out that you would be, you would go to become a doctor. So I said, okay. So, med school, I don't think was really for me. I didn't want to put in that many years. And I knew dentistry is something that impacts all of us. And at the time, I think didn't have very much innovation there yet. So I applied to dental school. Luckily, I got into UCLA. This time I got in.
This time you didn't have to appeal. Yeah.
First time I applied.
Yeah.
Going through dental school, decided to apply to orthodontic school. And in the back of my mind, I was always, once you do entrepreneurship, it never leaves you.
Of course.
So I just kept my eyes open. I said, okay, there's got to be something here. And when I got to ortho school is when I met my co-founder, Dr. Hongsheng Tong, who's a top orthodontist, world-renowned bone biologist, coming out of China. And I'll tell you, when you're a top bone biologist in the US, that's one of 200, 300 million people. When you're top coming out of China, that's like 2, 3 billion people. I mean,
That's incredible.
This guy's legit.
So how'd you meet him?
He interviewed me in ortho school. So literally, I come into my interview, I meet him, and then we start talking about how we're going to change the industry.
Yeah. And so this was an idea, was this, like, tell me about the idea of InBrace.
When we met, it wasn't like I had this idea, let's pursue it. It was like, hey, you know what? You think different, I think different. Let's work together. And our first year or two in residency at USC, I went to research, and we published a ton of papers, and made the cover of the American Journal a couple of times. And these things that we discovered or we found it just kind of stayed in the journals. They didn't really have impact at the chair side. And that's when we told each other, hey, you know what? To have impact at the chair side, you have to have, you have to productize it. You have to find something, to get all these innovations in. I mean, to make a long story short, we made discoveries in how to move teeth using more gentle forces. We've made discoveries on how to use computer technology to move teeth more precisely. We found out ways to do it behind the teeth, so it's less visible.
The behind the teeth part, I mean, the vanity part, whenever I think of InBrace, that's the part that stands out to me as like the thing. I'm sure all those other things are obviously important. They're more technical from like behind the scenes, but I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine. And now I start seeing people and I'm like, I never would have thought they needed them. But now I'm like, if you could just get them behind your teeth.
Yeah.
Right?
So this was actually the interesting part, right? If I can, talk about this, is the origins of all this was when I was making my rotations to Children's Hospital Los Angeles. We were working with kids with cleft lip and palate. I don't know if you familiar with what that is. So these are kids with the most disfigured, jaws and mouths, and they usually come from more lower income families, and they would have to drive hours, sometimes 3-4 hours every single month for years on end, for like 4 or 5 years even, to get orthodontic treatment, right, to fix these jaws. And we thought maybe there's a way to use some of our research to make it so that these kids don't have to come in every single month, right, for tightenings. Maybe we can do it in a way where it's not so painful for them. Doesn't require as much sort of tightening by the orthodontist or by the surgeon. And lastly, maybe we can do it in a way where they don't have to look worse before they look better. And we found that, these needs that I listed out applies not only to kids with cleft lip and palate, it applies to people like you and me.
Everybody,
our audience. My youngest InBrace patient is 8 years old. My oldest InBrace patient is 80 years old. And so that was sort of the early genesis of InBrace. Yeah.
And so you have this idea, right? And then you're thinking, okay, now we have to productize it. We have to fund it. We have to name it.
Yes.
How did all those things, like, walk me through? I always love that part. Like, are you sitting in a room and you guys are like, okay, let's just think of the name and who are we going to call? And it's such an maybe it's not off the radar as an industry, but in my mind, it's not necessarily the VC on the radar, field. They're not thinking about orthodontics.
Well, there's always, if I can kind of shoot it straight, there's these sexy innovations that everyone wants to put into,
well, consumer products, like, yeah, of course,
3D
Airbnb type thing.
And self-driving cars and, all those things. And, at the time, I'll tell you, it was hard to get funding for teeth straightening, right?
Right. I'm like thinking
So we couldn't get VC funding, so I had to apply. We had to apply to these business competitions, where like literally you would go there, you'd have half an hour to pitch,
and you'd pitch. Yeah, I've been a judge at a few of those things. Those are fun.
So we pitched at our first one, and it was a check of $50,000. And I remember I had to like rehearse looking in the mirror, saying, we need $50,000. And if we got it, we would change the world, right? And we competed against 3D printing, cancer therapeutics and all. And we ended up winning. right?
That's amazing.
And the next competition was $100,000, and the next competition was $150,000, and then $200,000, and then that check became $20 million, and that check became $45 million. And
okay, whoa, this is incredible. I love it.
I mean, so you go from business competitions to angel funding to VC and then investment bankers, and the story just became bigger. The checks became bigger. And there's one thing that I will tell you, Shauna, is that time and time again, people will come up to me. I'd ask them like, why this? Over there you got cancer therapeutics. Why not fund that? And everyone told me like, InBrace, it may not save lives, but it definitely changes lives, and it impacts all of us that are in this room, that are listening to this podcast. And it's definitely something that all of us would use if there was a different option. And this goes into, again, when I talk about building your own category and challenging the status quo, I think there are so many things in this world that we've just come to accept what it is because society told us it is. And it takes entrepreneurs or people who are willing to question and ask why to say, well, does it really have to be that way? Do taxis really have to be stinky and
exactly
and on call? And
would people actually give up their home and let somebody sleep in their bed? Like, ew, like that seems crazy at the time.
And this is a whole nother thing that I'm very passionate about too. It's I think people who create their own boxes or create their own categories, they understand like it's not just about making something better, faster, cheaper. Sometimes the world just wants something different, and you need someone that's willing to be different and embrace themselves.
Yeah. Well, yours also is better. It's not just different, it's better. Like, can you imagine how many people I'm just thinking like when you're going to raise money, it's not just that it's a great story, that it helps people. It's also like, think about the total addressable market. Yeah. It's like, hi, everyone, all humans.
So I think that's the thing, right? So again, if I can go into some stats here.
Yeah, I want.
Every 4 people need some kind of tooth movement.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So in the U.S., if you account for, so I said there's like a 300 million plus, population. If you account for household incomes over 75,000, that still amounts to about 185 million people who could afford teeth straightening, who need teeth straightening, but are not spending money on teeth straightening.
Right.
But they are spending money on Botox, LASIK, hydrofacial, beauty health products, lipstick, teeth whitening. Right? Teeth
are the most essential of all of that.
Yeah,
like someone's got a beautiful face, but the like jacked up teeth. No offense.
Well, I mean that can be argued, and what I would say is people who care about their skin, people who care about their lips, care about their teeth.
Yes.
And I mean, if I can just do a little plug here. Did you know, Shauna, that if you have straighter teeth, your teeth look whiter because the light reflects better on your teeth?
Yeah.
Did you know that if you had straighter teeth, your lips look fuller? Right, fuller. So
well, you're also more likely to smile, which gives off positive energy, which gives every kind of result under the sun.
So that's definitely true too. And the point I'm making with that sort of note is that people who think about getting Botox and fillers are prime candidates for InBrace because again, your lips look fuller. People who get teeth whitening are prime candidates for InBrace because your teeth look whiter. People who want to look younger are prime candidates. So these are things that people just don't know because the general public thinks of orthodontic care, teeth straightening as mouthful of metal.
Yes, and nobody wants that at a certain age. My dad got braces when he was like 40, and I remember it was like a very big deal.
Or like these nasty trays you got to take in and out. And if you think about adults, which is the untapped market, right? If you, for some reason, missed out on getting teeth straightening when you were young, right? The last thing you want to do as a new grad and you have a job, maybe at a top accounting firm or something, and they give you this big deal. You don't want to walk in as the youngest guy there with a mouthful of metal.
Exactly.
So a lot of us sort of young professionals or, working professionals miss out on these things. And, I wanted to create a product that can help expand the market. And that's what we're doing now. So,
So how much have you raised to date? I mean, you started talking about millions and then more millions and crazy.
So we've raised about, $75 million to date.
Wow. And what's the business model, John? Like who are you selling into?
Yeah. So this is, very much a B2B2C product, right? I believe wholeheartedly that orthodontic care is best done by a professional. And I think the people who have not opted in still want treatment done by a professional. But at the same time, it's a product that, it's not being pushed by just, 7,000 orthodontists in the US. Hundreds of millions of consumers are asking for this by name now.
Yeah. So if someone's listening to this podcast and they're like, oh, wait, oh my gosh, this is perfect for me. What's the process? They go and ask their orthodontist, or they find an orthodontist. How do they find who does InBrace, and how do those people get trained?
Yeah, so we have providers scattered in geographies all across the nation, and the best way to get started now is to go on inbrace.com, look up, find a provider, and these providers are trained, by us, and they're some of the top orthodontists in the nation.
Wow. And how does the cost compare to like the braces I had as a little girl twice, by the way?
So, we've been able to offer InBrace at the same price point as plastic aligners and braces. So, which is, usually about $4,000 to $6,000 before insurance. Now, with insurance, it goes down, even more. And everybody's malocclusion or teeth and mouth are different. So it's best to come in and have a InBrace provider check you out. But what's important is if you take a look online, you'll see that behind the teeth treatment has been done before, but it hasn't ever been mainstream because, they just took braces on the outside and put it on the inside. So they took something that was painful, required a lot of adjustments, put it on the inside and made it even worse, right? So behind the teeth treatment generally costs about $12,000. That's with the old technology. And as an engineer, I'm proud to say that we've created a new Smartwire category to enable this to now be at $4,000 to $6,000, right?
Wow.
Within reach for most consumers in a way that's more gentle, more sort of lifestyle convenient, right? Less invasive into your daily life.
Wow, that's amazing. And so what's the biggest challenge right now? Is it, you've got the funding, so you're scaling quickly. Two things on that. But my first thing is is one of the challenges adoption from the orthodontic community? And do they feel like this is cannibalizing what they've already built, or is this another offering? How does that work?
Yeah, that's, first of all, I'll say orthodontists have been embracing InBrace, no pun intended, right?
Embracing InBrace. Okay.
Embracing InBrace. And I think that's because some of these other treatment therapies are commoditizing the profession, right? And I think, do you wear contacts or LASIK?
I need to. Can you tell I'm squinting? I want to.
So you wear, so you have readers. I think
I wear readers here and there when I remember to put them on. Yes.
So look, this is important for the listeners out there, the entrepreneurs out there. It's not an either or game. You can have both and I'll explain. Okay. For vision, some people like readers, like what you're wearing, right? It's the most old school. It's the most sort of obvious that you're wearing it. But some people like how it looks and it's fine. Okay. Some folks like contact lenses. You pop them in and out. It requires you to reach into your eyes all day long, and you get it through the mail without ever seeing a doctor, and that's fine. Some folks want LASIK, and that requires you to come in to a brick and mortar, get treated by a specialist, but that requires no effort on your side when it's done. Once it's done, and it's the most sort of invisible of all. And I think similarly with teeth straightening. Some people are going to get braces, some people are going to get contact lenses, and some people are going to get LASIK. And that's what InBrace is. It's the LASIK of teeth straightening, right? Now, is there going to be cannibalization? There's going to be some. There's going to be some people that, have glasses, didn't want contacts, but would jump to.
But I mean, more like if an orthodontist is already doing it, he's gotten a great reputation for the way he does things. This is just additive for his practice, right?
So that's the part that I wanted to lean into is what we're finding is that we're actually growing the market.
Yeah. I mean, this is just oh my gosh, look at all these new clients I can get.
Exactly. There's
people who might not have otherwise even gotten to.
Exactly. There's a huge, data showing there's an incremental sort of component to InBrace that's growing the market. There's a lot of our InBrace customers are telling us, I never would have gotten this if it wasn't for your product, right? And if you've ever read the book Blue Ocean Strategy, which I firmly believe in, or the book, Play Bigger, I think real category creators, they don't just cannibalize, they grow the market the way Airbnb did, the way Tesla did with electric powered cars, right?
Totally.
I don't know if you can name a couple. I mean, you talk to entrepreneurs all the time, but there are certain types of products. Actually, the iPhone,
There's a ton of them. Yeah. No, they're amazing. So you're in this situation. You started in this business. You start out, you're writing research papers, you're getting published, then you go on to find this company all the way up through Series D funding. Now you've got over 100 employees, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have about 200 employees now, and
200. Wow. So you're in this like crazy scaling, fast growth. And I know from you that culture and people are at the forefront of kind of what matters most to you. How do you plan on maintaining a strong culture while also growing so quickly?
I'd love to talk about this because it is very dear to my heart here. And it is, if you read the book Blitzscaling, we did go from a small sort of family of 3 or 4 people to start this company off to like a tribe of 10, 20 people to, a village, right, of, several hundred. And we're going to be like a city of several thousand soon. And I'm sure you heard these stories early on. Everyone knows each other's names. Everybody knows quirks. You know what the guy's going to order for lunch, right?
Totally.
And now it's like you kind of know everybody's name, but not really. I think as an entrepreneur, as you scale, you have to know what's important and hold dear to those things. And at this point, it's maybe 2-3 things, and the rest you have to just trust the tribe or the village will self-manage itself.
So as you're thinking about scaling, are there things that you're kind of holding on to as far as your leadership style to just know that whether you know the person's name or not, they know you.
Yeah.
And so what do you want them to know that you stand for?
What's important for people to know what we stand for here at InBrace is that we do what we say we're going to do. We are transparent in how we go to market. We don't believe in, this is a whole nother conversation. We don't believe in market manipulation. We don't believe in, in med device, it's very rampant with tiered pricing and all those things. We're not going to mess with the market with that. Like if you believe in this product, you're going to use it, just like how Apple goes to market, right? And that, our job here is to double the amount of people getting teeth straightening because we think the market's underserved. And we're going to double the amount of people getting teeth straightening. And we're going to bring it from, the 6 million people right now that getting, orthodontic treatment in the US to 12 million and beyond.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so as far as expansion, are you planning on expansion from a geographic standpoint, like maybe going international, or are you planning on extending your product offerings to, offer more products?
Shauna, people around the world want to smile and they want to be proud of their smile. So, definitely this is a product that touches everybody worldwide. But we're going to focus right now primarily in the US, domestically. And we'll be raising funds soon to raise.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. More. That's amazing. Incredible. And so how has this past year during the pandemic been? Obviously it's a weird time for somebody to, nobody wants their mouth touched. Nobody was in doctor's offices getting, cosmetic things done. How was it and how did you handle it as a leader?
I think definitely when COVID first started, everybody took a pause, right? To question how and why we do things the way we do. But I would say fast forward a year later, we're coming out stronger than ever. And one of my mentors told me, while COVID was terrible, right? And a lot of bad things happened, it didn't stop many things. In fact, for entrepreneurs, it accelerated many things. And if you were somebody that thought the sky was falling and, you don't adapt, it just accelerated that. But if you were the type of person that knew how to pivot, that knew how to evolve and change, it accelerated that, right?
Totally.
And with COVID, I think a lot of people's were staring at themselves through Zoom like we are right now, seeing their smiles, noticing that this isn't, how they want to present themselves. They have disposable income and they're spending it more than ever on teeth straightening. And I think it's been great for InBrace. And
I love hearing that.
Especially, with plastic aligners, again, people think it's all the craze, but the fact is a lot of people don't want to be reaching into their mouths every single day. It's hidden. And the other part you can't underestimate is it, because it doesn't require effort.
Right.
Right. I mean, wearing something, these plastic aligners, you got to wear them 22 hours a day for years on end for it to work. Right.
Yeah.
And there's some educating the market that, we need to do. And I think, we've been brainwashed to think that that's the answer. But, most people quit aligner therapy because they just burn out.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And they settle for substandard results. And that's why the market's underpenetrated. I mean, most people don't realize that out of the 184 million people who can afford orthodontic treatment, who need orthodontic treatment, there's only 5 million people getting started in the US each year.
Wow.
So think about that delta, right?
Yeah.
Now there's 170 something million people that are spending money on other beauty health things, but not on teeth straightening. And that's incredible opportunity that we have here.
That's incredible opportunity. So how are you balancing all this? I mean, you've got to be so busy. You're drinking from the fire hose at work, but you also have 2 beautiful children. How are you balancing your time between work and family and all of it?
That's a good question, Shauna. I mean, how do we make time for all these things? I think our listeners, everybody's trying to struggle with these things. And I think that goes back to, again, being present. You can't do everything. You need to wake up every day. At least now I'm going through the practice of waking up every day, making sure I have the 2 or 3 most important things I need to do. Everything else is noise. Everything else is noise.
That's an important way of thinking about it, to stay laser focused. And so how are you spending your free time when you've got some downtime?
I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and as much as I can, I love to spend time with them. And it's interesting. A friend of mine, Gabe Goldberg, Gabe and I were talking the other day, and he's like, do you miss those simpler days? And I kind of said, in a way I do, but in a way I don't, because life is still simple if we keep it simple.
Yeah. And kids keep you young and they keep you engaged. And I can imagine that your meditation and all the stuff that you're working on to stay present is making you an even better dad.
I turned 40 this year. I think every 10 years or so, you do kind of stop and reassess things and reevaluate and reinvent yourself. I think in my 20s, it was a lot about what do I want to do, and in my 30s, it was about proving I can do it. And I think now it's just about just being present. And you're still gunning. I mean, that's still in me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still out there trying to, do what I do, but really being present and enjoying the journey.
Well, just realizing the journey part of it, not the destination. So that makes sense to me. So when you do have free time and you're not with your 6 and 8-year-old, what about just a day for you? What would you choose? Are you like outdoorsy? Do you like to sit and have, 6-hour brunch with your friends and get boozy? Like, what do you like to do?
Nowadays, I'm really enjoying the outdoors, right? I'm starting to enjoy all the free stuff that you've always had around you. I mean, I live in Huntington Beach. The beach is like literally a couple of blocks away from my house, and I never go there. So, really, I'm trying to enjoy all the things that God, the world, had always given us. And going back to that 20-year-old me when I lost everything, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I think again, you got to remember that those are things that matter.
I can't imagine having the beach like that 2 blocks away. It's so stunning there. And so when you're like Sunday and have that feeling of like that Sunday night feeling, what do you do to set yourself up for a good week? Do you have kind of any rituals or ways that you set yourself up?
Yes, I do. 3 simple things I need to make sure in the first hour of every day. That's gratitude, exercise, and meditation. It just sets up my day, and it's free.
Gratitude, you're journaling every morning?
I do journal now.
Oh my gosh.
And it's as simple as, what are 3 things that you're grateful for? And like, you have to just sit there and just like feel it, and it's funny, when I started doing it, it was, again, like you fall into the old traps, right? It was like, oh, I'm thankful for my house, I'm thankful for my car, I'm thankful for my watch, or whatever it is, right? And then now it's just as simple as, I'm grateful for how my son makes me feel when he hugs me in the morning.
Oh,
And then I'm thankful for having an amazing wife that always makes sure I have food when I'm working my butt off, and those things are free, and you have,
yeah.
Anyway, so 3 most things that you're most grateful for.
And then what's your exercise?
And then the next thing after that, though, is, what is one thing that will make today great, right? And then one affirmation, that you have to believe in. It could be anything.
So affirmation is daily?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, come on, let's keep it real. We're all entrepreneurs. There are some days you wake up and you're like, WTF am I doing? Right. Yeah. And only you can say it to yourself, because you got all these people out there that you got to keep a face
keep
on.
a happy face. Yeah.
So we all been there, right? If you don't raise your hand, you're faking the funk. Okay.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it's as simple as, I chose to do this. I can do this. That's it.
This is amazing, John. I love this.
And I'll tell you, Shauna, it's real. And it's just simple. Like, you're strong. Be strong. That's it. Yeah. So I think that my most powerful one is, you chose this, you can do this. Actually, one of them I tell myself is, you're playing with house money at this point, which means you're ahead.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I'm digressing here, but this started off as a master's thesis for me in school, right? And when I started off, it's like climbing a mountain, right? You just kept looking up because you're at the base of the mountain. You just kept looking up. You just take one step, one step, one step, one step. The times when I falter is when I look down.
Interesting.
Because every step forward is the same step. Every decision is, the decisions are different because you're making billion-dollar decisions now, and not $1,000, decisions. But the difficulty of deciding is the same.
Yeah, the same magnitude of like relativity.
Take the damn step.
Yeah, take the damn step.
When you hesitate is when you fall. So
do you feel successful?
I'm successful without all these things.
Yeah, I would hope that from everything that you're saying, that you have had a moment to at least recognize it.
Success. Again, success is a feeling that's internal. It's not external. Mm-hmm. If I have to, I'm talking to myself right now. This is my morning affirmation here.
Good. I'm glad to be a part of it. Let's do it together.
And look, again, don't get me wrong. We're going to change the world.
Yeah.
Okay? And doubling the market, doubling the people who gain teeth straightening, it's just a outcome of the internal success, where we need to believe it and feel it internally first. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you need that external validation to yourself be happy or successful, so to speak, you're going to be freaking miserable, and you're going to be the CEO that nobody wants to follow, and you're going to wake up one day, look yourself in the mirror, and say, "WTF am I doing this?"
Yes.
It's okay to do it once a year, twice a year, but if every single day you're doing that, the passion's gone.
Yeah.
After I do my morning meditation, morning gratitude, then it's 30 minutes of exercise. And I don't try to, I've done every single type of thing out there, like this, trainers and freaking crazy regimens. And it's as simple as, I have an Apple Watch right now. I got to close my ring in the morning. That's it. Right. Whatever it takes to close the ring. Sometimes it's going for a run. Sometimes it's going for a swim. Sometimes it's like yoga. I'm going to confess, Fitness Plus has this dance routine, this dance function. The other day I was dancing to Backstreet Boys for 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Gabe Goldberg would be so proud.
It's okay. I don't care.
Yeah. It's movement. You just got to move your body.
And it's about creating that momentum. I do believe in routine keeps things going, right? So 30 minutes of that, and then 10 minutes of meditation. And that's where you just sit there. And after you get the endorphins going, just sit there by yourself and enjoy that natural high and have your thoughts to yourself. And then you check your phone.
Oh my gosh, that's so disciplined. That's incredible.
I'm so big on this here. Do not touch your phone. Everybody here, especially entrepreneurs, the first thing you do is probably pick up your phone, right?
I've been trying, John, for this for a long time. It's like an addiction, weird impulse.
It's addiction. It's the other 24th century cigarette.
Yes, it's terrible.
There's been billions of dollars spent on making this a drug. Okay.
Yes.
So there's this quote that I believe in, is that you want to be a thermostat, not a thermometer. And when the first thing you do is check your phone, you are a thermometer. You're responding to the environment. But if you keep that first hour to yourself, and I'm learning how to do this, you start controlling your day. You're a thermostat.
I love this. I have so many little nuggets I'm getting from you. I wish I could sit next to you all day and just have the wisdom. You're dropping knowledge, John. I love it.
I mean, to be honest, there's this other thing that I'd love to, listeners out there, I found successful people, find successful people to learn from. And I'm really big on mentors, right? So, I think everybody should have, I'm sure you've heard this, everybody should have a mentor that you learn from, a friend that you learn with, and, a person that you can, teach that can learn from you. And I think those three things.
Wow. I love it. So my final question for you, John, is what fuels you? What's your ultimate fuel?
We talked a lot here about meditation, which is really, in a sense, identity, knowing yourself. That question's, so insightful, because I meet a lot of people. Yes, you do too. And a lot of us start with a why and we forget why we're climbing the mountain. We do. My why has evolved and changed. This is the truth. It started off as, making sure this invention goes out there and, can make impact. And then as you grow a team, it starts becoming about them, making sure that they reach their aspirations and goals in life and, all those things. And of course, you bring investors in, you want to make sure that you get an ROI for their, investment and, yada, yada. I am getting to the point in my life now where, I do have some people that I mentor, and I want to show people that you can write your own script, not be put into someone else's box. Right. So my very sort of tangible KPI is, yes, I want to double the market, but the intangibles is really what fuels people. And my intangibles right now, if anything, is other than impacting all the people's lives that we're going to impact as we grow the market and all those things, is, it really is important to me that no matter where I end up in this mountain, and I don't know how high it is, that I want truly everybody listening, everybody out there that has been told how life should be or who they should be and what, how they should behave and all those things, just to know that don't climb someone else's mountain, climb your own mountain. And wherever you end up, put a stake in the ground and be proud of it.
Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, and follow us on social media to keep up with the latest news and episodes. You can also contact us at podcast@fueltalent.com to provide feedback, ask questions, and share topics or guests you would like us to cover in the future. We hope you feel inspired by our guests and that we have helped fuel your day. Join us next time for another episode of What Fuels You.